Welcome everyone to the Business Leader Series. Today we're thrilled to have Robin San, the visionary CEO of Link4 Cloud. Renowned as a 2020 Australian Entrepreneur of the Year finalist, Robin blends over 12 years of business solution expertise with a sharp entrepreneurial edge. His significant invoicing contributions have revolutionized the support for small businesses globally and I think government as well. So Robin, it's delighted to have you on the show. And first of all, congratulations on 7 years in business. I think you've got around 5,000 clients or so and 50 in government, which is a remarkable story.
Yeah. Thanks, PJ. Look, there's a lot of people that start off with good ideas, but
Yep.
a business to survive for 7 years is actually it's a good milestone. So we were very happy to celebrate that.
Yeah, yeah. I think some of the clients, it's just remarkable how you've been able to help out, whether it's just SMEs to, really important organizations like the Treasury, along with some of the government financial regulators as well. Um, when I was looking at your journey, Robin, one of the things that piqued my interest was that you actually have a marketing background, and I guess your journey has always been around the marketing space. So it'll be good to unpack what enticed you to build up this particular business, and what allowed you to have the courage to go, you know what, I'm going to be leaving past my own professional career and really building this up because I really believe in it.
Yeah, look, there's some good points just in that question there. Look, from the marketing side, and I think I'm more the commercial side. So
Yeah.
marketing was a role that I kind of fell into at one point,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
just kept running with that. And the marketing part that I did was more lead generation, so it was more on the
Mm.
sales part.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Nice.
but yeah, my co-founder Sam and I, we were working together in a
Yeah.
business, and we, let's say, the owner of the business was challenging,
Mm.
and
Yep.
when we were both looking for our next opportunity, we decided we didn't want to be working for someone, and that
Yep.
kind of gave us that push to go, well, let's do our own thing. And it started off as a small idea of let's just help small business with technology. That's
Yep.
our background. Small
Yep.
business owners need the help, so why not? Let's start with that.
Mm.
So we then started interviewing sort of coffee shops, restaurants,
Mm.
cafes, find out what their pain points were.
Mm.
They gave us a list of their pain points, and invoice
Yep.
processing was common amongst them all. And so
Yep.
it's like, if we focus on that, then that gives us a chance to actually do some good. So that's
Yep.
how we started, and that's how we developed e-invoicing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think, you highlight some important points, which is sometimes the greatest ideas is literally having conversations with people. I think, for too many times it's pretty much like we're trying to figure out what's the best solution, how do I create a product, how do I, go into my own entrepreneurial journey. Whereas I think you've done something quite fundamental, which is really just connect with people, especially your target audience, and figure out what are you dealing with. I mean, one of the things that pops up in my mind is more around, it's for a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, the thing that they're often held by is they've got this idea, but then they're at a stage where it's like, now we've got to actually put the money into the business. And that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of, I guess, self-belief. So it'll be good to unpack, what allowed you to really delve deeper into the business and really go double down on it.
Yeah, and I think, when we, like Sam and I actually did have a
Yeah.
product in mind that we wanted to go to market with, and our motivation for meeting with people is to
Mm.
almost find out how we package that and present that to them. So we just
Yeah.
wanted to understand their business more.
Yeah.
What we started with had nothing to do with the invoicing. That was,
Mm.
and we've never gone back to that product. So
Yeah.
we got into something different. I'm glad we did, and
Yeah.
it was that thing about, as you say, you listen to people. Now,
Yeah.
because we were listening to them, we actually thought we could make a difference.
Yeah.
And the one of the first guys we interviewed,
Mm.
he ran a restaurant, and
Yeah.
he turns up there at like 6:30 in the morning, finishes
Mm.
like at 4 p.m. in the afternoon.
Yeah.
He goes home and he gives all the paperwork to his wife,
Yeah.
and then they have dinner with the kids, put the kids to bed. Then she
Mm.
sits up for 2 hours every night doing the paperwork.
Mm.
And we thought if we could
That's
give them a
crazy.
couple of hours back every
Mm.
day,
Mm.
then that changes their life. So
Mm.
there was a lot of motivation for us there of like, how can we do this, not just
Yeah.
for that family, but for many families around? And
Yeah.
that sort of gave us the push to go, well, let's give it a try.
Yeah, well said. And as an entrepreneur myself, like the invoicing and all that stuff, it drives me crazy. I think normally a lot of the business leaders or CEOs or just entrepreneurs in general, they're more focused on business growth rather than having to be stuck down on admin. Um, I mean, one of the things that a lot of people aren't aware of is some of the items you shared in some of your thought leadership around the importance of cybersecurity. I think there's a lot of issues around invoicing being directed somewhere else where the person that you invoice, they're paid but it's gone to someone else. So it'll be good to for you to just unpack some of the risk around traditional invoicing more from a cybersecurity point of view.
Yeah, and so for your listeners and that, just to be clear, e-invoicing is the delivering of invoices without
Yep.
email and PDF. So we allow the accounting systems to talk together
Mm.
in real time. Basically, we're a translator that sits between. So that a lot of people are used to emailing an invoice,
Yep.
and emails are not safe. They can be intercepted and
Mm.
details changed, and it happens every day in Australia.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize it until it happens to them or they hear
Mm.
that it happens to someone.
Yep.
And so I feel myself that is a big trigger for people to do e-invoicing.
Mm.
But it's kind of like, insurance on a car. People think, oh, it's never going to happen to me, so don't worry about it,
Yep.
until they need it. Then it's like, actually, I should have listened and
Mm.
done it.
Yep.
There are other triggers that may make people switch over, and that is,
Mm.
business efficiencies and cutting out the errors or saving money,
Yep.
even just saving the environment by using less paper. So there's
Mm.
many reasons, and different people are attracted by different aspects. And
Yep.
I think that's one of the good things about e-invoicing is that it
Mm.
actually does have multiple benefits for people.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think it's not just only small businesses because, like during my time working in corporate and speaking to some other friends as well, there's been like numerous like heads of IT and heads of finance that have been kind of almost nearly hoodwinked, where the email looks exactly like it's coming from the CEO, and because a lot of the large corporates, like 10 thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, so at times is quite ordinary transactions that unless they had to double check and look at the little finer details on the emails, that they've been caught off guard as well. So I think it's so critical, especially in today's world, as more and more businesses are getting to the cloud. And I think cybersecurity has been the biggest concern for a lot of businesses. I think we've seen a lot of cases, especially in Australia, around organizations really suffering from that. Um, as you went through that journey, I guess for a lot of tech entrepreneurs, they would definitely be thinking about, oh, it'd be nice to have a large client. It'd be nice to work with government. What was your stepping stone? Because I guess, I mean, given your background more on the sales and the lead generation items, I think you've been quite well versed on that. But for a lot of the early founders that may not have the marketing and sales background, how can they think about building the relationship with the government to become a supplier for them as well, and your experience as well, because sometimes having a nice brand is always, it's nice to have, but the process to get there is also very long and also very technical and detailed as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to be honest, we actually started with the opposite line of thinking,
Hmm.
in that we thought if you go out after small businesses and support them and get a little bit of money from each one, then overall you'll end up better off than going
Yeah.
for a couple of large ones.
Yeah.
And so our initial target market was small business.
Mm.
We soon realized that we need to do both sides. We need to have big
Yeah.
businesses as well. We
Mm.
didn't have the confidence when we started, but as we grew, we gained that confidence.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we found that we were doing big business and government.
Mm.
And then we became like the preferred choice for government.
Yeah.
So Australian federal government are mandated to have e-invoicing, and we're the
Wow.
biggest suppliers to them. So
Yep.
I think we've actually proven ourselves, because we're genuine, we've proven
Yeah.
ourselves with what we're offering and how we deliver it.
Yeah.
And I guess in one sense, people on the other side, if it's a small business or a
Mm.
large business, are still people that want the best scenario
Yeah.
for them. And they will help you through that. They'll talk
Mm.
to you about what you need to do and how you need to support
Mm.
them to get that approval going up the chain.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier for everyone.
Yeah, totally agree. And talking about Australian business growth, I guess one of the things that I've seen recently with your business, Link4, is the focus on global expansion. I think you've also presented to Buckingham Palace as well, which I think is a dream come true for a lot of people. But yeah, it'll be
Yes, thank
lovely
you.
to hear your story on um, what was the stepping stone in terms of expanding globally and how's it gone thus far.
Yeah, interesting because, and right back in the beginning, we started this because it solved a business problem. So Sam and I
Yep.
actually started in 2015. We're creating the business plan,
Mm,
and then in 2016, we're building the solution and
mm,
we established our business. In October 2016, the ATO rang us and
yeah.
said, okay, see what you're doing. Do you know what we're doing? And we said,
Yeah.
no. And they said, we want every business in Australia to do e-invoicing. It's like, oh, great.
Okay.
So, so
That,
and
yeah.
I still remember exactly where I was when I got that call, because
Yeah,
getting a
yeah.
call from the tax department, not always a good thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
this was, and that was
Yeah.
helpful to us. Then it was like we then sort of set about, creating the solution. And I did a presentation in Sydney one day.
Yep.
And then I was talking to a guy afterwards. He just happened to be from the UK.
Yep.
A couple of weeks later, then we got an email from the mayor's office of London saying, "See what you guys are
Wow.
doing. Can you, come over to London because we need you?"
Yeah.
And it's like, well, this is weird, because of the conversation I had
Yeah.
in Sydney. That just moved across to
Mm.
London, and
Wow.
it caused us then to enter a competition from the Midlands Tech Challenge,
Yep.
which is in Birmingham. And
Mm.
they flew Sam and I over for a week to look at where we can set up an office and how we could set up.
Wow.
And during that week, we did get an invitation to Buckingham Palace to actually meet
Yep.
with the head of IT and the head of finance,
Yep.
talk about how we could set them up with
Mm.
e-invoicing.
Yep.
But what we learnt in that week was interesting, is that the UK were not ready for e-invoicing.
Mm.
So we thought, if we go and set up now, we'd just be pouring a lot of money into the
Yep.
country to keep going, but it wouldn't work. And
Mm.
even today, it's not ready. I think there'll be
Mm.
something happening in 2024, but probably
Okay.
2025, that'll change that. And I think that's an important part as well. You can,
Mm.
have desires and plans, but it's not
Mm.
until the market is ready that you should actually
Yep.
do something there.
Mm.
So we're active in Asia. Australia, New Zealand, Singapore. We do that. We've been engaged with the US for like 4 years now, and they're coming out with standards from January, so we can do
Mm.
the US next year.
That's
Same
amazing.
with Malaysia. We've been working with
Yep.
them for a couple of years, and
Mm.
that pretty much kicks off next month. So we're looking
Yep.
to support that market too.
Yeah. And then, for a lot of people listening, they might be like pretty much going like, oh wow, like, I could never be at that stage, or like that's such a remarkable story. But I think during a lot of entrepreneurs' journey, a lot of CEOs' journey, oftentimes a lot of people only see the highlights of the reel. So it'd be wonderful to
True.
unpack like some of the stories around what were some of the challenges, and how did you overcome them? Because I guess one of the things that's come up a lot in my conversations is that teamwork is so essential. Communication has been, normally it's a fundamental to team growing and succeeding. And it almost seems as though you've really built up a strong partnership with your CTO, Sam, to grow the business. But yeah, it would be nice to unpack some of the challenges and how you've been able to overcome them.
Yeah, that's true. So look, e-invoicing, as I say, is the invoice being sent direct between accounting systems.
Yeah.
But when you say the name, people go, "Oh,
Mm.
we've been emailing our invoices for years."
Yes.
Yes, that's not quite it though. And so a lot of our work, especially in the early years, was around
Mm.
education. We'd
Yep.
do webinars, we'd do events, we just try and tell people what it's about
Mm.
without selling anything. We're just trying to educate the market.
Yep.
And so we spend a lot of time on just trying to educate people. Still
Yep.
do, but that does drag you out of the business for what
Mm.
you're trying to achieve.
Yep.
Thought we're building up the ecosystem. In a sense, we were.
Mm. Yep.
And then like in 2016, we made zero e-invoicing possible.
Yep.
And so we thought that makes it easy for small business owners. And we were giving it for free at the time
Mm.
because we wanted people to start using it, keep
Yeah.
it simple. And then in 2019, Xero decided to build it into their system, not
Yeah.
us, but they were going to build
Yeah.
it in so they could offer it. And
Mm.
we thought of that of like, there goes 70% of our market. Like
Mm.
that could devastate us if we weren't careful.
Mm.
and it wasn't a very nice thought. But we kind of looked at it in a different angle, and one is Xero are only ever going to offer the basics with e-invoicing. Like they don't go
Mm,
into the details that complex businesses need.
mm,
So we still have an offering that people pay for,
mm.
even though they could use the Xero one for free.
Yeah.
Okay, Xero hate me saying it's free. It's like included in the subscription.
Yeah.
But everyone who's got Xero can do e-invoicing
Yeah.
today, no
Yeah.
problems.
Mm,
But if they want, approval processes, alerts, or
yeah.
there's other aspects that they
Mm,
can only get done through someone like ourselves.
yeah.
But also with that, it forced us to look then at more of the enterprise, more of the government.
Mm,
And so we do more of those now. And sometimes you've got to take a risk and connect. Like for us, we connected some software before it was needed. And
yeah.
then by the time it was needed, it's like, okay, now we're there. No
Mm,
one else is there. And that gave us the advantage.
yeah. Yeah. Nice.
I
Nice.
think one of the
Nice.
key things too is that we went to South Start in 2016 and there was a
Mm,
presentation done at that conference that said, get your marketing ready, start doing your marketing before your product
mm,
is ready to go.
yeah.
So, and that changed our thinking. And we went out, we created the website, we started doing
Yeah.
social media, and
Mm,
people knew about who we were before we were able to have the product ready.
mm,
And we still get people that reach out to us because of that type of marketing
yeah.
from different countries around the world that we never thought would be interested in
Mm,
us. And like
yeah.
we're currently dealing with a company in Norway, and it's like,
Mm.
that's not a target market, but
Yeah. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
need a solution and they found us on the web and it's like, here we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, important to get your marketing right.
Yeah. So talking about marketing, I mean, given you're pretty much a veteran in the marketing space, along with winning a bunch of awards, what would be good to unpack is there any like top three things that entrepreneurs and business leaders should be thinking about, like in terms of the future of marketing, how they can leverage, I guess, some of the insights that you've learned to their business?
I think marketing is a key thing, right? Because you can have the best product in the world
Yep.
and it doesn't go anywhere. The example there that I've been using for years is SASU, the cloud
Yep.
accounting system,
Okay.
and
Yep.
Xero. Now
Yep.
you say to people, "Have you heard of Xero?" And they go, "Yep." And have you heard of
Mm,
SASU? No.
mm,
And often people haven't.
mm,
But SASU came out first and actually was probably a better product than Xero.
yeah.
But Xero raised a lot of money and spent a lot of
Mm,
money on marketing, and they got the
yeah.
noise out there. And all of a sudden, people go, "Yep, Xero heard of them,
Mm,
must use them,"
yeah. Mm,
just because of the marketing that was done. So there's a lot
yeah.
of, I think, importance that needs to be put on that messaging
Mm,
part. And
yeah.
look, half the time, to be honest, it's smoke and mirrors that
Yeah.
you say you do it, and it's like we'll have to build that for them because they need it.
Mm, yeah.
But that's important.
Mm,
I think as for as well giving advice to
yeah.
entrepreneurs, um, partnering up is a good thing. Like Sam and I
Yeah.
make a good team.
Mm,
Um, having your own business is tough and it
mm,
can easily fall apart at any time with the
yeah.
negativity you get.
Mm,
Having a second person supports you, you bounce off each other, you keep
yeah.
going. And I'm sure I wouldn't have done 7 years if it hadn't been for having a good partner to do that with.
Yeah.
So that's important.
Mm,
But I also think good mentors are important.
mm,
So, um, I mean, there's that phrase of life's too short to make all the mistakes yourself. So you've got to
yep.
learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah.
That is true. It's like,
Mm,
what can you learn from someone else that can help you?
mm,
And having a face-to-face mentor is awesome. But I do
yep.
believe like podcasts are like
Mm,
the modern mentor in that you can
yep.
pick and choose the gems from other people's lives and
Mm,
apply them to yourself. And I
yep.
think that's really important to actually get onto some good podcasts into your daily listen. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. Thanks for embedding that nice learning habit in today's session. I totally agree because what I was contemplating, but a couple of weeks ago was probably 5 years ago. There wasn't really much podcast happening, very limited. And I was just thinking, like before, the way I used to learn was books, investing in training courses. But recently, I'm just like, wow, like yes, technically podcasts, you only get a certain amount of time with the person. But just the knowledge of each individual is so immense that in the past, people used to pay significant amounts of money just to gain that insight from individuals. So I think that's definitely such a underutilized platform. I mean, I guess one of the things that during the COVID space that came up a lot was the fact that there wasn't really much resources out there to solve specific problems, and the fact that people were just figuring out how to solve key issues in real time and just speaking with peers. The thing that's been coming up a lot is around the remote work, leading a global workforce. I know you've got presence in different countries, but you've also got a workforce in different countries as well. So, during your learnings, building up a team overseas, what's been something that has really helped you in terms of making sure that the productivity is there, the culture is there, and that real connection with the employees is there as well?
Yeah, look, that's a good thought. And COVID has adjusted our thinking there. We had a
Yeah.
larger team in our office. We're
Mm.
based in Adelaide, and we
Yeah.
had a bigger team here. And then we had a few staff that were headhunted away from us
Mm.
because staff shortages, and then we
Yeah.
found it hard to replace them. So we did actually start looking beyond Adelaide,
Mm.
and we do hire people around Australia now. But
Yeah.
we've opened an office in Sri Lanka, which is a back
Yeah.
office for us. As well, we've got an office in Malaysia. So
Mm.
we have some people sitting in different locations. Now, look, part of that is cost. Part of that is
Mm.
because we want to be global and service
Yeah.
different markets. So it helps us to adjust to different time
Yeah.
zones. But you're right. The
Mm.
challenge there of making people feel like a team is
Mm.
important.
Yeah.
And with COVID and that, we then started implementing some weekly town halls.
Yeah.
We've got very good Slack channel sort of
Mm.
chat that happens with everyone.
Mm.
We have our video conferences, and it becomes part of our culture that we have to
Yeah.
keep in touch with each other.
Mm.
And we actually put a channel in Slack, and I wasn't sure about this initially, but
Mm.
it's just good morning. Like everyone,
Yeah.
when they start their day, they say good morning. You
Mm.
walk into an office, a physical office, and say good morning, and people know you're there and they can see you, and that's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Mm.
It's harder when you're remote and you look, John is supposed to be working on Wednesdays and he starts at
Mm.
10 a.m. Fine.
Yeah.
But has he? Is he really there? You
Yeah.
don't know.
Mm.
So with this just simple thing of like, he gets on there and says good morning at 10 a.m. It's like, yep,
Yeah.
he's there. That's good.
Yeah.
I know I'm not alone. Other people are
Yeah.
working as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it
such a
works.
good habit to have as well. I think it just, what I realize about culture is that oftentimes culture is really a collective habit which people are doing. And I think
Yeah.
that's quite important. And I think you don't really need an office per se to build a strong culture as long as people are actively utilizing the habits that you aspire to be, whether it's, as you said, just feeling connected by saying good morning, to even other things around. Maybe it is like connecting once a week as a group to just share about how they're going throughout the day. Because I think, as you said, the hardest part is not knowing what's happening for the other person, because you literally cannot see them. And sometimes uh, it's very hard for them to speak up, or sometimes the psychological safety just might not be there for the person in their mind. So I think those habits are quite important.
Yeah, it
Um,
is. And just on our town halls at the moment, we've sort of implemented something that once a week we interview one person. When I say interview,
yeah.
we use a platform called Menti, which is
Okay.
very
Yeah.
good. And people can put in their questions they want to
Mm,
ask. So, like,
yeah.
this week it could be me, and we say, what do you want to ask Robin?
Mm,
And anonymously, people put their questions in, and then I read through them, give them the
yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
What do I like to do for a hobby?
Mm,
What's my greatest fear? All
yeah.
of those things. Having those types of questions and that kind of interaction allows you to get to know someone. Now,
Mm,
you normally get to that when you're in an office and, you'd have a chat that's got nothing to do with work. Harder to do when you're remote because often
mm,
most of your chats are work related. So
mm,
we're trying to get some, personal aspects there of learning about other people. Then you
yeah.
respect them as individuals and you go, oh, they're actually very similar to
Mm,
me, or,
yeah.
yep, no, I can see why they're like that. Yeah,
Mm,
those kind of things do help.
yeah. But I think just that personal level, it's quite important to stay connected. And what I'm thinking about as you're sharing that is more around the innovations piece, which is for a lot of employees, both actually employees and employers. Um, there's been big shifts more on the artificial intelligence piece. I think it's hard to get away from not talking about it. Literally, I mean, everyone's talking about whether it's the big corporate CEOs creating committees to specifically look at how to integrate that function into the business. I mean, given that you're in a quite of a innovative space yourself, what's your perspective on the whole artificial intelligence arena, and how can businesses stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah, look, I think it's very important. It's this transition now we need to be aware of, and in fact, it's not. The environment of large businesses, that every
Mm,
business needs to look at that.
yeah.
And I think even in our company, I've said it to our team, is like
Mm,
every person in the team, no matter which department, needs
mm,
to find a way to use, say, ChatGPT in their week. And we're
yeah.
giving a challenge to our team of saying, let's see who can come up with the best way to
Mm,
use it,
yeah.
because there's lots of different ways to do it. Even if it's just
Mm,
writing a letter, like how do you
yeah.
do that, or an email, or the
Mm,
developers are using code, being able to put it
yeah.
through and get that cleaned up,
Mm,
or we're hiring someone in Malaysia. It's like create a letter of employment for that person. It can do a lot of things. What that does is it shortens the time that it takes to do that task, which then allows you to be more effective, do more things. So it's not taking over your job, it's just
yeah.
helping you to do your job better and faster. And I think
Yeah.
we all need to look at how we can use it, and we shouldn't avoid it. It's more of
Mm.
what are the tips and tricks we can learn now to incorporate that in our weekly activities.
Yeah, well said. And I think there was a nice story from back in the days. I think when IBM was really growing rapidly, and people were scared. Oh no, like IBM's going to take over all the jobs. But then I think there's a group of secretaries that really try to understand how does it all work, and then they end up becoming irreplaceable because they knew all the ins and outs. And I think that's pretty much, I guess, what you're also creating is allowing the team members to make sure that they're ahead of the loop around how to use the latest technologies to not only drive productive gains, but to ensure that they gain a competitive advantage where they're reducing time on a lot of the administration work and really focusing time on the high level thinking and connecting and innovation as well. Um,
Yeah, agreed.
Robin, we talked a lot about the business and I guess just some of the leadership capabilities. I guess as we kind of pretty much come to the end of the show, there was a couple of questions I just really wanted to learn more about from your end. Is I guess with Link4, is there any key innovations that you're working towards from a feature point of view that people should be aware of?
I Look, I think we. So I was on the FinTech Australia board for 4 years, and I
Yes.
dealt a lot with fintechs and things. And my
Yep.
firm belief is these fintechs are very good at what they do, and they're good at
Mm.
their niche, but they need to work together to actually create a
Yep.
complete solution. So
Mm.
for us, we're not going to go out there and try and be everything to everyone. We're going
Yep.
to focus on what we do
Mm.
and expand that basically geographically,
Mm.
and be good at what we do. Partner up then with other companies that can add that, or we can enhance their solution, they can enhance
Mm.
ours, but we can create a better
Yep.
solution for the end user. So for us, nothing majorly news coming,
Mm.
as apart from the fact that we are going to different countries. And
Yep.
but e-invoicing, by the way, is different in every country. So you can do it
Mm.
in one country, the standards change for the next one, even between Australia and New Zealand.
Yep.
So to be able to do it in more than one country is actually a
Mm.
challenge, and we've
Yep.
been able to master that. Being able to support this ecosystem, because e-invoicing is going to be mandated for everyone.
Mm.
So
Yep.
whether pretty much everyone in the world, every business is going to have to
Mm.
do it. Now, whether that's going to be in 20 years' time, 10 years'
Mm.
time, or even in 12 months' time, we have to
Mm.
wait and see how that plays out, especially in Australia. I think businesses need to get ready for it and
Mm.
start to progress toward that now. And we're here to
Mm.
help.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. I think, to be honest, I think it is an understatement where you've shared that you don't have any big features coming because I think for a lot of businesses, especially when I speak with a lot of businesses, they have at least like one random client somewhere out of the country. And I think that particular feature is quite important. Mainly because they don't have to deal with two different suppliers. They can just deal with one. And I think that's what a lot of organizations do look for is simplicity, which is like everything in one place so that things can be easy for them. And like working in the IT space and speaking with a lot of the decision makers, for a lot of decision makers, as you said, like yes, there's other providers that can provide things for either cheaper or for free or just the basic elements. But I also know a lot of people that are willing to pay premium for a specific feature within this element. I think you've kind of honed down on that, which is making sure that you build a robust e-invoicing capability so that it can be as seamless as possible across SMEs to corporates to government. Um, I guess there was a couple of two more questions I did have, and this is probably something that is on the mind of a lot of CEOs is productivity hacks or secrets to success. Because I think for a lot of leaders, they're always looking to improve their ways of working, their ways of enhancing the productivity in their life, both from personal to professionally. What's like some of the things that's really helped you increase your own productivity, or but also helps you manage your personal life? You kind of touched base on the fact that you wouldn't be doing this without your partner, in the sense of the partnership has been such a great element that's allowed you to give you more energy. And I think it'd be nice to, and oftentimes in our personal lives, uh, there's also a nice juggle, which is balancing the time we need to invest in the business versus the time we need to invest in our own personal lives. Have you juggled that, and have you really continued to grow yourself?
Yeah, good question. And look, I was asked a couple of years ago to give a talk. It was like a TED type
Okay.
talk, and
Yeah.
I chose this topic to speak on.
Yeah.
And the theme I used was switch on, switch off.
Yep.
Because when you're starting a business, you get fully engrossed in it, and it
Mm.
can consume every minute of your day and
Yep.
night. And you can be
Yep.
thinking about it when you're going to bed, and you don't sleep properly and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, well, how do you disconnect from that?
Mm.
And also, how do you connect the next day? Like, how do you get into it? So
Mm.
I've gotten into a good routine myself of finding something that switches me on to work. So
Mm.
in the mornings when I go to work, I'll be listening to business podcasts,
Yep.
because that gets my mind into that
Mm.
type of scenario and type of thinking.
Yeah.
And you can always learn things of, oh, how can I apply that today?
Mm.
And then at the end of the day, whether I'm coming home from work or I'm going for a walk in the evenings, I listen
Mm.
to audiobooks. And
Yep.
that way I'm starting to get engrossed in a story or
Mm.
something different that has nothing to do with work.
Yep.
And by the time I go to bed, then it's like I've got a good mind that I can actually sleep
Yep.
and
Yep.
be ready for the next day. So finding something that can turn you on and off in a
Mm.
business sense is a very important thing, I feel.
Yep. Yep. Well said. And any recommendations on books that have personally transformed your thinking?
Yeah. So Reid Hoffman did a good
Okay.
one
Yep.
called Masters. I can slip in my mind now. It's the green one, Masters of something, which is especially season 1 and season 2 are
Okay.
really good because
Masters
he's
of Scale.
Masters
Masters
of
of
Scale. Thank
Scale.
you very much. Appreciate
Yep.
that. He was like the founder of LinkedIn, and
Yes. He's amazing. Yeah.
he's got knows Mark Zuckerberg, gets them on the
Yep.
phone, and all these kind of people that he includes in there. And the
Mm.
things you can learn from his guests are amazing. So the first 2
Yep.
seasons are really good, but it
Mm.
is ongoing. So
Yep.
I always recommend that one. I think that's awesome.
Yep. I think definitely check it out for all the listeners out there. And just as we end the podcast session, for all the entrepreneurs who are looking to either build up their tech startup, um, along with the CEOs that are either struggling with growth or talent challenges, what's some of the top 3 things that you could share insights around?
For the challenges people face, I think they're all different, right? So you've
Yeah,
always got different things. And probably come back to what I was saying before of mentors. Like
yeah,
just get a good
mentors.
mentor that can
Yeah,
help you. If you got a personal one that you can talk stuff through, because
mm,
sometimes you'll think of an idea and you go,
yeah.
"This is going to be good," and then you'll say it out loud to someone and you go, "Yeah, actually, I can see why that wouldn't work."
Usually the case.
Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
getting that external
mm,
input onto you is a good thing.
yeah,
Also, I think sticking to something. You see a
mm,
lot of people start a business, and I did meet a guy once, and he did a presentation. I was a judge on this panel
mm.
at one point, and he had started, I think, 7 businesses, which
Wow.
is pretty impressive to start 7 businesses,
Yeah.
unless you're 21 years old, which he
Okay. Yeah.
was. And
Mm,
it's like, well, what happened to those 7 businesses? He was good at
yeah.
starting something, but he didn't
Yeah.
stick to it. And
Mm,
when you talk to him, none of those businesses actually eventuated.
yeah.
And he was running on that principle of like, oh, you learn from your mistakes, you might as well have a
Mm,
go.
yeah.
Yeah, fine, but
Mm.
stick with something. And I think that is worthwhile doing.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important element that you just shared, which is sticking with something. Because you know, when I speak with a lot of the successful individuals, in the sense that they've had a vision and they've been able to fulfill that vision, I think for me that's what success looks like. Is a lot of people had a deep passion for solving a particular issue, and they didn't really focus on the monetary outcome or the external outcome. They were like, you know what, this is a problem I am very committed to solving, regardless of the ups and downs. I'm going to go through it. I think that's similar to your story in the sense that there was a specific problem that you wanted to solve for based on your interviews with a lot of the cafe owners. And then I guess you kind of found a problem that you were both passionate about, but there was a real need. And then you've kind of just stuck around it. And then I guess through time, whether it's word of mouth or whether it's your hard work, opportunities have just arose. And I think that's allowed you to compound and compound, where you've been, quite successful in the sense that the business has won multiple awards. You've been really creating a lot of value in the world by really simplifying e-invoicing, but also more importantly, I think personally, the cybersecurity element. I think that's such a critical factor that all SMEs are struggling with, and if we can help solve that, that literally saves people thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. Because yeah, like for a lot of business owners, they're not aware of it and they send the money, and like it's not small amounts at times, like
Yeah, and we can't afford to lose anything. So yeah,
yeah,
and look, and to be fair, we've been going 7 years. The first
yeah,
3 years or so was financially not good. Like
yeah,
you have to rely on investors, you have to rely on competitions or government
mm,
grants or ways to get your money
yeah,
in. But we stuck with it long enough to the market being ready for what we're doing. So now
yeah,
we are earning
yeah,
money. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
don't feel bad that if you're not quite succeeding
Mm,
commercially,
yeah.
if you've got the right solution at the right time, it'll
Yeah,
work.
yeah, definitely agree. Well, Robert, thank you for joining us in today's session. It was such a delight having you. And yeah, look forward to continuously engaging with you and just following your journey as well.
Awesome. Thanks, PJ. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.